Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. Welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. Appreciate everybody being in here. We got a good show for you guys today. Look, we're talking about football, and I love talking about football. I know it's May. I know it's early May, and we got a long time before the season starts, but I don't think there's a bad time to talk football, especially Big 12 football. So today we're going to talk about some of the sleepers as far as who can win the Big 12 conference that maybe a lot of people aren't talking about right now. So we're going to dive into that head first today. But before we do, remember, like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in the comments section, and always hit that notification bell so you know exactly when Big 12 Insiders content comes out. So first off, let's do this. Let's talk about the teams that everybody seems to be talking about that can win the conference, okay? Arizona State is one. Locke coming back. Their quarterback's coming back a year older. The fan base is energized. The coach is red hot. They believe in the program. The kids do. Arizona is a team that can win this thing back to back. A lot of people, like I said, the thing about the Big 12 conference is it's fun. It's exciting. And you have absolutely from week to week, you don't know who's going to win. And that was true with the other teams that we don't need to mention them that were in the conference too. You know, they act like, at least one of them acted like they ran the entire conference from a football perspective when people that were in the conference absolutely knew that wasn't true. It couldn't have been further from the truth, to be honest with you. Now, one of the teams that left, you could say they ran the conference, but the other one that left, yeah, they didn't run anything. Okay, they got hot at the end, but they didn't run anything, and we all know that. Either way, doesn't matter. Bottom line is, last year was the epitome of what the Big 12 conference is. Look, Arizona State, and I just mentioned them, they won this thing. Everybody picked them last, okay? Nobody had any idea how good that football team could be, but they won. They won. The confidence just kept growing and growing and growing, and boom, not only do they win the conference, they're a horrible call from possibly moving on in a college football playoff. That's what happens in the Big 12. Teams that we thought were going to win the conference, at least battle it out in Arlington, literally finished at the bottom of the conference. It's crazy what this thing does. I'm looking forward to another year, but Arizona State is one team that I think should be a team that's going to battle it out for the conference supremacy. Kansas State is another team. Look, Avery Johnson is got to take a step forward. He did a lot of good things last year. He did some bad things, especially in big moments that cost Kansas State. It's just period. He's got to take that next progression. If he does, with a rebuilt offensive line and wide receiver room, Kansas State will be a team that people, they're already talking about. It's that they're going to be a team to battle it out to win the conference. BYU. Now, BYU's a team, a lot of people, mainly Utah fans, are saying, hey, it was a fluke and, you know, it was 1 year wonder. And maybe all that's true. But the only thing that I keep coming back to with BYU is they, at the media days last year, all they talked about was, hey, we didn't understand how physical this conference was. We had some injuries, yes, but we just weren't a physical football team. We had to get more physical. And they did. And it showed. You know, now they've lost some things. They lost some players. But we're going to find out here this season if BYU, if they're going to be a keeper and a stayer in this conference, or if it was a fluke. I don't believe it was a fluke, people. I don't. Doesn't mean they're going to have the same season that they had last year. And I know people will say, well, if they don't win the same number of games, it doesn't mean that, people. I don't think that they will necessarily win the same number of games. But I'm not going to say if they end up winning 8 games or something that it's a fluke 1 year. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. You know, either way, they're still going to be – they're a team that I believe can compete for this conference title. Baylor is another one of those teams. Dave Aranda did one of the most in-season turnarounds that I've seen, a team that was basically begging to quit. Just, hey, man, we've given up, and had every reason to. Every reason to. All of a sudden turns that thing around, fights back. Not only that, they're returning a lot of players. They got new players. Dave Aranda is he's a super smart guy, and he figured some things out. They got it going. The team believes in him. That's something that you don't often see. When a team's ready to quit, but they don't, that's because they believe in that coach. They believe in that coach and what they've got going on there. That's a testament to him. They're going to have a good team this year, plus a little bit more manageable schedule for Baylor. So we'll see how that works. And then, the team that everybody seems to be talking about, and I specifically left them towards the end, is Texas Tech. On paper, Texas Tech is the best team in the conference, supposedly. The transfers that they got in and the defense that they keep talking about, and that's been the thing about Texas Tech for decades. Can they find any defense? I didn't say enough defense. I said, can they find any defense? Because they've always had offense. They've always been able to score points, but they've never been able to stop anybody. Well, again, on paper, it looks like they should be able to do that this season. To me, and Red Raider fans may be mad at me, this is a make or break year for Joey McGuire. Look, enough's enough. Enough of getting close. Enough of that. It's time to get over the hump. It's time. And getting over the hump, to me, I'm not even saying they got to win a title, but they got to get to Arlington. They got to get to a Big 12 championship game. If this is the best roster that you have, and however you got it, I don't care, because I know there's fans out there. Well, they bought a bunch of people in the transfer portal with NIL. So what? That's the rules. What did they do that other people aren't doing? They just did it more. Okay. Now it's got to work. It's got to work. But I think this is a make or break season, in my opinion. I don't think there's you can't just let this, we won 8 games. No, not this year. Not this year, Red Raiders. You got to get to Arlington. I'm not even saying, like I mentioned, that you have to win the title. That would be nice. But no more of this, we won 7 games or we won 8 games, and then the game we needed to win, we got beat, and yada, yada, yada. It's the same story. That can't be the same story when you spend this much in NIL, put together this type of roster. It's time for Texas Tech. And to be honest with you, I think Texas Tech fans kind of believe the same thing that I do. They are like, you know what, Big B, you're right. It's time for us to win. If we're going to put out this kind of money to put together this kind of roster, 8 wins isn't good enough. Even 9 wins, that's not good enough. We need to get to the conference championship game. I agree. I 100% agree. Got to get to the conference championship game. But those are the teams, the 5 teams that I believe that everybody is talking about that could possibly win the Big 12. Some say 4. I'll throw in 5. But those are the teams right now. But there are a few sleepers out there. There are a few sleepers that I think could possibly win the Big 12. Now, here's number 1, and this one is like a maybe. Maybe they're a sleeper, is Colorado. Look, Colorado's replacing a lot. New quarterback. They're losing the Heisman Trophy winner. They lost a couple of key components on defense. A couple of receivers. They're losing some things. But the key to Colorado has always been the same. What's the offensive line going to do? What's the defensive line going to do? Now, you could say that about most college football teams, but Colorado, we knew that when you say it about them, you really, really mean it, because if their offensive line is the same as it's been, they're not going to do anything. If it's better, they have an opportunity. I'm not saying that they're replacing Shedeur Sanders. I'm not saying that they're replacing Travis Hunter. And when I say replacing, with guys that are just as talented as they are. What I am saying is they are bringing in talented guys, but if the offensive line doesn't do their job, or if the defensive line continues not to be able to get consistent pass rush, which they got so much better last year. Warren Sapp did yeoman's work with that defensive line. It wasn't even remotely the same from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. 2 totally different defensive lines. But the offensive line wasn't. It has to take another step. It has to be better. If it's not going to get better, then they're not going to be one of these maybes. Then that's why I put them at a maybe. If the line is better, Colorado's got a chance. If it's not, they don't have a chance. It's just that simple. Next team up is Kansas. Now, everybody, and I do mean everybody, looked at Kansas last year and said, you know what? They got a chance. They're bringing back a ton. They got a lot of talented guys. Quarterback is really good. They got a chance to win a minimum 9 games. They got a chance to end up in the Big 12 title game. And they completely fell on their face. Just fell on their face. We've seen it before from college programs where they build and they build and they build. And then, okay, this is the big crescendo moment. And then, boom, they fall on their face and take 3 steps back. That was KU last year. And there's reasons. They brought in an offensive coordinator. It just didn't mix. Him and Jalen Daniels, they just didn't vibe. Not only that, the play calling was suspect because you have a quarterback that's struggling and you know it, but you have a ground game that is not struggling. Didn't lean on the ground game near enough in some of the games that they lost, that they could have won, and instead they put it in the hands of a quarterback that was struggling. And again, it wasn't for his talent. I just think him and the offensive coordinator, or maybe what he was asking them to do, they just didn't vibe. It just didn't work for whatever reason. Bottom line is Kansas should be better this year. Quarterback's coming back. They've got an offensive coordinator that's more in tune with what the quarterback does and does well, I should say. I just believe they're going to be better. Did they lose a lot? Yes, they did. Are they replacing a lot? Yes, they did. But in college football, if you've got a quarterback that can go out there and make plays for you, you got a chance. And Kansas and Jalen Daniels has proven that he can make plays. He's proven that. Not so much last year, but in previous seasons, he's proven that. So with new talent, new offensive scheme, or should I say new offensive coordinator, I just think Kansas has an outside chance. Again, you don't go from building, and literally everybody's thinking, okay, you got a shot to win the Big 12, to all of a sudden just being a terrible program. That's not what I'm saying. That Kansas isn't going to be a terrible program, I don't think. So I think they have an opportunity, again, a sleeper. Nobody talking about them, but a sleeper. Somebody that could slip up on everybody. And the last sleeper that I have, the Utah Utes. Look, Utah has an opportunity to redeem itself, an opportunity to wipe the egg off its face, the opportunity to say, this is the real Utah. All of those things, they have that opportunity. Look, we don't need to go over how they got into or how they came into the conference. We can talk about what actually happened. They just, look, you had a quarterback issue. Yeah, Cam Rising coming back. Whether he was healthy or not, I don't know. He gets hurt early. Then he comes back, gets hurt again. Couldn't find consistent quarterback play, and the season took a nosedive. Defense was pretty good all year, but it's tough on your defense if you give up, 16, 17 points and you're going to lose because your offense can't score more than that. That's pretty deflating, as a defense. So we'll see exactly what happens. They've gotten a new quarterback in. They think that he's going to be the difference. He can do a lot of different things. Now he's coming up a level. He was at New Mexico, and this is Big 12 football, so it's a different level. But I don't think that Utah was that far off as what people seem to think, or maybe people seem to engulf and enjoy seeing Utah lose last year. I don't think they were that far off. I really don't. I think if they just had decent quarterback play, not great, decent quarterback play, they win 3 more football games than what they won last year. Just my opinion. I've been watching football a long time. I watched Utah last year. They were in some of these games. They were in a lot of these games. But when you don't have quarterback play, it's a problem. It's a problem. And if they just got some decent quarterback play, 3 more wins, I think, the Utah would have had. This year, it looks like they might have good quarterback play. Well, you combine that with a great coach, great roster, and you get good quarterback play. I'm just telling you, ladies and gentlemen, look, you enjoyed watching Utah last year. You enjoyed them losing. And for whatever reason, There's plenty of shows that I have done, I will do, on what's going on with Utah in the Big 12 Conference. So you got fat on their misery last year. I don't think that's going to be the case this year, people. I really don't. And I'm so convinced that Utah is going to turn this thing around. I almost didn't put them in the sleeper bin. I almost didn't do it. I almost put them in the expected contenders, but I thought, no, they got to prove that. And I think Utah is going to prove it. I just think they're going to have a better football team this year, people. I absolutely believe it. I like what they're doing. I just like what they're doing. I like what they've got going on. I like the changes that they made. I think they're going to come out. They're going to continue to be a physical football team, and they're going to have a say at this thing come the end of the football season. I like Utah this year. So when the rankings now, look, we got a long way to go before we do any preseason predictions or any of that stuff. Just keep this little birdie in the back of your mind. Big B is going to have Utah in the upper half of the Big 12 with his predictions. I don't know exactly where yet, but I'm telling you right now, they're going to be in the upper half of the Big 12 when it comes to predictions. I just believe in the program. I just do. So that's what I got, man. That's what the sleepers. I got Utah, KU, maybe Colorado. And a lot of people would say, nah, Colorado's going to fall off again, and they very well might. I don't think so, but I think they could probably win 7 games. Again, we'll get into the prediction type stuff later. But sleepers are important for the Big 12. I think the Big 12, that's why I think it's such a good conference. Like, the Big 10, do they have any sleepers? The SEC, does it have any sleepers? Is Auburn going to win the Big 12? No, they're not. Is Tennessee going to win the Big 12? No, they're not. The Big 10, I mean, is Wisconsin going to win the Big 12? No, they're not going to do that. Is UCLA going to even compete to win the Big 10? No, that's not going to happen. In this conference, you just don't know. And that's why I love it so much. I get it. We don't have a blue blood in the conference. I get that. But you know what? That doesn't mean it's still not really good football, and it doesn't mean that it's not really exciting football. And for Saturday afternoons, isn't that all we're asking for? Give me something fun and exciting to watch on Saturday afternoon. The Big 12 will have that in spades this season. So thank you guys. Again, appreciate everybody that's tuned in. Remember, like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in the comments section. I appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.